Good evening and welcome to my How Healthy Are You weekly educational podcast. My name is Dr. Thomas Brewer. I'm a PhD chemist. And for this week's call, I have a couple of questions. A few of them were essentially a follow-up to last week's call. So I wanted to get started on those. And one of the questions that came up was, is it okay to use apple cider vinegar as a mouthwash? So if you remember last week, I talked about the dangers of using any vinegar, any acid, for a long period of time, what it does to the stomach lining, and what it does to the growth of parasitic bacteria in the gut. But using apple cider vinegar or any acid as a mouthwash, and in fact, some people use the acid stream from an alkaline water machine. You can use that acidic stream, and you can use that for your as a mouthwash because it's an acid. The only issue with using a strong acid or even a medium strength acid as a mouthwash is it does tend to dissolve tooth enamel. So that's the only negative about it. It'll work, it'll kill lots of germs, but it tends to destroy tooth enamel. It makes your dentist happy, but you're not going to like that. So, chemically it works. It's not going to hurt your gut, but it will hurt your teeth. So it's somewhat okay, but not completely okay. Another similar question, that last question was from Helen, but another similar question from Robert was the whole concept of taking a solid form of stomach acid, and that's called Betaine hydrochloride. So hydrochloric acid is the form of acid that our bodies secrete and into the stomach, and that acid supplies the very low pH to activate protease enzyme. We've talked about that numerous times. So the question is, well, what about taking Betaine hydrochloride? And part of the question also was HC1. Well, there is no such thing as HC1. It's HCl. It was written wrong. So HCl is hydrochloric acid. It's a hydrogen atom and a chlorine. So that's where the HCl comes from. But you're not going to drink liquid hydrochloric acid, so you take it in a solid form. And so at that point, it's called Betaine hydrochloride. And it is very similar but stronger than apple cider vinegar. And so the question was, well, should you take that to increase your enzyme production? Well, it's actually just the opposite. If you need enzymes, and these would be digestive enzymes, you need to either eat foods with those enzymes, like organic and whole fruits and vegetables, raw preferred, or take an enzyme supplement. And I recommend you take a good one that has at least 100,000 units of protease. The criteria is HUT, so 100,000 HUTs of protease per capsule, and that's a good enzyme. That's a lot of protein digestion. But if you're low in enzyme, the question was, well, should I take this Betaine hydrochloride? No, because all that's going to do is stress the pancreas further. So the pancreas has two main jobs. One is to produce protease enzyme. The other is to make hormones so that you can digest carbohydrates, right? So that's insulin and glucagon. Well, most of us are familiar with insulin and its relationship to diabetes and metabolic syndrome. Most of us don't think about the balancing hormone called glucagon, but that would be a topic of another call. But that other use of the pancreas is to make protease enzyme, and that's the enzyme that digests proteins. The signal from the stomach to release more protease enzyme is acid. So in that sense, if you want your pancreas to release protease enzyme so you can digest proteins, you would need acidity. Right? But that's rarely, if ever, the problem, that there's not enough acidity in the stomach. So if you want more protease enzyme and you increase acidity in the stomach and the pancreas doesn't have more protease enzyme, you're just going to stress the pancreas. Now, there is one instance where you need to take acid like Betaine hydrochloride and even apple cider vinegar. There is one instance, and that is to jumpstart the whole mechanism in your body so that you can utilize minerals. And it runs in a circle, and it's very hard to explain unless I'm making a diagram. But if you can imagine a circle with arrows going one from the top to the bottom and one from the bottom to the top. And at the top of the circle, you'd write minerals. But at the bottom, you need acid. And so you need minerals to make acid, but you need acid so that the minerals work so you can make acid. And it's this circle or loop or circular logic. And if you have minerals in the body, which you're going to get from fruits and vegetables, unfortunately, our soils aren't that great, but there's still some minerals. Those minerals are the building blocks of acid so that we can digest our proteins, at least to activate the enzyme so we can digest our proteins. And if the minerals aren't getting activated or ionized so that they can function to make acid, then you got to start the system. You got to start that circle. You need to take in some acid. This is a short-term fix. This is not something you do for a long period of time because you never want to take acid for a long period of time. So some people will get some benefit from apple cider vinegar, but you got to stop taking it. And that was the whole point of last week's call or podcast. And the same is true if you need to jumpstart your body's ability to utilize the minerals to make acid. The way you jumpstart it is you put some acid in your stomach. It could be the Betaine hydrochloride. It could be apple cider vinegar. And this would be done for a short period of time, typically days, at most a week, just to get the body utilizing the minerals. It actually ionizes the minerals. That's what the acid does. And once the minerals are in an ionized state, they are absorbed and utilized, and the body can start making acid. And then you don't have to give the body acid in order to make acid. So I hope you were able to follow that. But in general, putting acid in the body, that's not going to improve your digestion unless for some reason you're not making acid. And the reason for that would be you're not utilizing minerals. So it's a short-term fix, definitely not long-term. Then the final question from Florinda, which is about menopause and the resulting hot flashes and hair loss. So it turns out, just as a summary, when a woman enters menopause, the ovaries essentially stop working, and therefore the estrogen levels drop about 95%. So not 100%, but just a huge decline in estrogen output. Now, estrogen has been linked to uterine cancer, and so one form of logic says the reason the miraculous body gives people menopause and the women aren't able to use their ovaries because they stop functioning and that lowers the estrogen level is because it lowers their risk for both uterine cancer and breast cancer. Well, the breast cancer link has been challenged over and over, and there's a lot of debate whether low estrogen levels really lead to less breast cancer risk and whether high estrogen levels lead to higher breast cancer risk. But they're pretty good proof about the uterine cancer. Well, but as a result of menopause and not having the ovaries function, not making estrogen, well, hot flashes ensue. So really the question is, okay, that's menopause. What can we do about these hot flashes? Well, first, there is no cure. There is no magic answer. It's just little things. There's nothing out there that really works, except one thing that works better than just about anything else is the placebo effect. When women were given soy or soy products like tofu, they had noticed, and the whole idea came from Japan, where the Japanese women hardly have any hot flashes, and they consume a lot of soy or tofu. So a study was done, and in the study they realized that soy is a phytoestrogen, which means it has the body make less estrogen. That's the whole point, is you make less estrogen when you consume soy because it's a phytoestrogen. Well, I thought that was the whole point, was you don't want to make less estrogen. That's the whole point. Women are getting the hot flashes because their ovaries aren't working. So it turns out that before you go into menopause, if you lower your estrogen levels, such as through eating tofu or any soy food, the effect of the hot flashes is greatly minimized. Well, that's good to know if you're pre-menopause or just starting menopause. That would be good. But if you're already having bad hot flashes, not going to help so much. Now, women that were having hot flashes were also given soy products and soy protein and tofu and things like that, things from soybeans. And they actually got an improvement in their hot flashes. And this was hard to comprehend because that means their estrogen levels went even lower than the 5% left. Remember, the ovaries were making 100% estrogen, and then once a woman hits menopause, there's a 95% reduction in estrogen levels. So there's only 5% production left. And soy would even lower that. But they got fewer hot flashes. And it turned out that what was almost as important as taking that soy product was thinking you were taking something, meaning the placebo effect for hot flashes is huge. Even though there is a hormonal, true biochemical, scientific basis for menopause, it seems like the best thing, if you're already in it and you've already got the hot flashes, is to think your way through it, which is what a placebo is. Now, it's kind of hard to do that now that I've told you, because you're going to know something doesn't really work, and that placebo effect then won't work for you. You won't have it. But knowing that there is a placebo effect, use your mind to get through it. I've been told it's just a horrible thing, and I've seen it in many women. I've been around them when they're having these hot flashes. It's definitely not comfortable, I can tell. But there's not much you can do. I would still try the soy and the tofu, because the effect of soy foods like tofu were still better than the placebo. It's just that the placebo was most of the effect, but it's not all of it. So having these phytoestrogens in your system help. Now, the other way to deal with menopause is just bite the bullet. You go to a doctor, and they'll give you estrogen, and that's what you're lacking. The ovaries are low, are not producing enough estrogen. You increase your estrogen levels, and those hot flashes go away. The fear is that, well, that can cause uterine cancer and breast cancer, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the breast cancer really it has been challenged. The link between increasing your estrogen levels and breast cancer is challenged. And from what I've seen, they're also challenging the fact that if you take some estrogen to ward off hot flashes, you increase your risk of uterine cancer. A lot of studies refute that too. So that's really the true biochemical way to deal with hot flashes. The first choice is to try to think about it and try to use your mind to get rid of the hot flash. And then the second choice would be soy products like tofu. And then if you have to, just take estrogen. So that's what I have for this week. If you have a question for next week's call, please contact me. You can phone, text, or email me the question for the call, and I should be able to cover it next week. So until then, I want to thank everyone for listening. Okay.